Thank you, Reverend Ellick. Our first speaker is Dr. Cornell West. He is an outstanding scholar and dedicated and much-loved teacher at Princeton University, where he earned his PhD in philosophy in 1980. In his scholarly work, he focuses on the intersection of religious thought, social theory, and philosophy, interests explored in his influential book, The American Evasion of Philosophy, A Genealogy of Pragmatism. His book, Race Matters, has sold nearly 400,000 copies and sparked a national dialogue on race. But Dr. West has never wanted to remain sequestered in academia. He's one of our foremost public intellectuals with a passion to communicate to a vast variety of publics in order to keep alive the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., a legacy of telling the truth and bearing witness to love and justice. To speak about the crisis in youth, Dr. Cornell West.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Let the word go forth here and now. Something is happening in this nation. There's an awakening that is taking place among everyday people, among ordinary people, beginning with young folk. But I want to begin with a salute to Frances Fox Piven for her leadership. Give her a hand. The young and the old together, young and the middle-aged together. We all together in this. Secondly, I want to acknowledge, of course, the passing of my dear brother, Manny Marable, one of the great freedom fighters, one of the great intellectual freedom fighters, democratic socialist tied to the black freedom movement. I know Brother Peter Gomes is being laid to rest tomorrow as well, but I am here because I believe, like you, that too many of our brothers and sisters of all colors are suffering and their misery is unnecessary, and we plan to do something about it. We approach this day fundamentally committed to what Brother Martin Luther King was committed to, unarmed truth. And we know the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. It could be our brothers and sisters on reservations. It can be our red or brown brothers and sisters in barrios. It could be our white brothers and sisters locked into poverty in Kentucky and other places. It can be yellow brothers and sisters, and it can be my black brothers and sisters, too often tied to prison industrial complex, dilapidated houses, unavailable child care, still unavailable health care after Obamacare. And we have some young people all around the nation, and yes, even those in privileged institutions of higher learning who have not decided to become well-adjusted to injustice, but still want to think critically in their quest for truth and say they can be agents to highlight the corporate greed that undergirds the military-industrial complex with its imperial presence in Afghanistan and Iraq and dropping those drones in Pakistan. Yes, it also undergirds that prison-industrial complex, 2.5 million locked in, 72% soft drug offenses, and the financial sector shot through with levels of greed that even Charles Dickens would have problems trying to depict. And then the entertainment complex that bombards our young people with weapons of mass distraction. They keep them titillated and stimulated and so thoroughly distracted that they no longer want to fundamentally focus on the most fundamental issues that every education ought to be about, which is what does it really mean to be human, and what are you going to do with your life? What level of decency and courage and compassion will be manifest in your short move from your mama's womb to tomb? Understand, young people, the difference between education and schooling. Don't get locked into what you saw on the social network where you're all obsessed with the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught, just to make big money and find yourself in a condition of spiritual malnutrition and moral constipation where you know what's right. It's just stuck in too much greed and it won't come out. Don't get locked into that truncated apathy, that truncated imagination. Historically, young people have played a disproportionate role in democratic awakenings, and if we don't awake now, we're sliding down a slippery slope to not just chaos, but social strife with strong conservative right-wing neo-fascist elements emerging with power, with big money behind them. And in this age of Obama, let us be very clear that even as we celebrate his symbolic and cosmetic and cathartic victory and presence, we are going to reassure, or we're going to do all that we can, that he doesn't become just another black mascot of Wall Street oligarchs, just another black pawn of corporate plutocrats. When we hear Mr. Daley or Mr. Geithner and others whispering in his ear, and they got Brother Martin in the Oval Office saying, don't forget about the poor people, don't forget about sanitation workers. We young folk have an analysis. We young folk have a fresh take on what's going on. We want something beyond symbols. We want substance. We want empowerment of poor people. We want the downsizing of those banks that are too big to fail, but oh, young people with no school loans are too young to rescue, too little to rescue. Is that the level of hypocrisy that we're dealing with? Then tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. As young brothers and sisters, and you can see I'm old school, but I try to stay connected as I can with the younger generation. I want to see your courage. Don't show me the big job that you got and your status and your stature. Don't be a peacock, be an eagle. Don't generate foliage. I want to see what your fruit actually is. That's what the younger generation needs to do. And you need to do it with some of us older folk, because we can learn from you and you can learn something from us. Because Frances Fox Piven's been in this movement for 50 years and she's still going strong as ever. She's a long distance runner. And I'm damn near 60 years old. Should have been dead long time ago. But want to be faithful unto death. Young folk, keep track of that. Oh, my tree is gone though, isn't it? Keep track of who's paying the cost. Learn how to straighten your back up. And anytime young people, courageous people, progressive people straighten their backs up, you're going somewhere, because folk can't ride your back unless it's bent. And that's what we learn in Madison. We learn in Indiana. We learn in Ohio. And we learned it in Northern Africa with Tunisia and in Egypt, just like we learned it in the early 90s with Nelson Mandela and others. Do we have what it takes to engage in this fight back against corporate greed? That's the question today, connecting thought and deed. I just want to say, as an old school brother, I am there with you, because I'm going down swinging.
I think we're all going to go down swinging, brother. We're all going to go down swinging.